Renowned are then everybody, it is 2 o'clock. Before I start this afternoon's proceedings, I'm going to hand over to Tammy, Democratic Service Officer, to brief you on something that she needs to. Thank you.
Many thanks, Leader. Officers, members, you may have noticed, due to an update with ModGov, which took place yesterday, we're experiencing some technical issues with some users' agendas. All the reports are present and correct, but may not follow the order of the published agenda. Please select each report you wish to view from the bookmarks on the side of your agendas, whether you're using your iPads or your laptops. Thank you all.
Thank you for that information, Tammy. Okay, then agenda item 1 this afternoon is appointment of chairperson. So I'm Councillor Steve Hunt, leader of Neath Talbot Council, and I will be chairing today's meeting of Cabinet. Agenda item 2 is Chair's announcement. So can I just welcome the members of the public or press viewing this meeting? Can I ask you to please ensure your microphones are switched off? You are here to observe the meeting only. Members and officers, please ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting and that your microphones are switched to mute unless you are speaking. In addition, when asked to raise your hand, if members who are virtually attending the meeting could raise your electronic hand, and for members physically here in the chamber, please raise your hands. Officers, can I please ask you to ensure to verbally add any additional comments from scrutiny committees if this is not already included in your reports. I would also like to remind members signing in remotely of their legal obligation to have their cameras switched on during the meeting, please, in order to be seen or heard while participating in the council business. If you have a technical difficulty, can you alert officers immediately? Thank you very much. So if I go to agenda item 3, that's declarations of interest. Can I ask, are there any declarations of interest? Please would members or officers explain the item and what the interest is. So I'll go to our Chief Executive first, Francis O'Brien, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I declare an interest on item 14, please, which is the appointment of returning officer and granting of indemnity? Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I failed to mention, if you have an interest, Nadine will forward you an electronic version of the form that you can complete and email back to her. Ken, Councillor Phillips, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm declaring an interest in item number 17. As one of the local members who was involved in the discussions, so I will be leaving the meeting for that item. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Any other declarations of interest? I don't see any online and no hands raised in the chamber. Okay, I'll move on to agenda item 4, which are the minutes from the previous meeting of Cabinet held on the 13th of November 2024. The minutes of the 13th of November are on pages 5 to 22 of your agenda pack. These minutes are here for approval of accuracy. Can I ask members if they have any comments on the accuracy of these minutes? I don't see any, so I'm happy to propose that they're a true record. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to eilio, Cadeirydd, pleased to support, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary, by raising your hand, I will assume that you're content with the accuracy of these minutes.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm that the minutes have been approved.
Thank you, Nadine. Agenda item 5 is the Forward Work Programme 24-25. The Forward Work Programme is on pages 23 to 30 and is here for noting. Moving on to agenda item 6, public question time. I have received no notifications this afternoon from the public to speak at today's meeting. Moving on to agenda item 7, which is the Neath Talbot Welsh Church Act Trust Fund. This report is on pages 31 to 36 and is here for a decision. I now ask Hugh Jones, does he have anything further to add on this agenda item, please?
Thank you, Chair. Diolch, Cadeirydd. Yes, so this report is asking Cabinet to consider a grant application for support from the Welsh Church Act Fund. Members will be aware that the Council administers this ring-fenced fund and the conditions for funding are set out on pages 31 and 32 of your pack. This application is from Bethlehem Evangelical Church in Aberavon and is requesting £1,000 towards a heating refurbishment project totalling around £13,000. I'm happy to confirm it meets the criteria, Chair. I'm happy to recommend to Cabinet to approve. Diolch.
Thank you very much, Hugh. Can I ask members if they have any questions for Hugh? I don't see any. I now refer members to the recommendation on page 33 of your agenda pack. I'm happy to propose this agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please?
Obviously, I look at it as pleased to second. Yeah.
Thank you, Alan. Can I ask members if there are any abstentions? I don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary and can confirm that the recommendation has been approved.
Thank you very much, Nadine. Agenda item 8 is the third sector grant and commissioning arrangements. The report is on pages 37 to 70 and is here for a decision. And I'll go to Hugh Jones to see if he has anything further to add on this agenda item. Hugh?
Yeah, thanks again, Chair. So members will be aware that the Council has a long-standing third sector grant scheme where organisations can bid on an annual basis. This report is seeking Cabinet approval to open that scheme for bids, and then the bidding round will end on the 24th of January. Officers will assess applications and then provide further recommendations to Cabinet in March. I do need to update Cabinet following the Scrutiny Committee last week, Chair. Members of the Scrutiny Committee disagreed with the fact that we had set out in the application form that the applications could be for projects only and not core costs. The Scrutiny members felt that a number of organisations who had historically received core funding from this fund would be left at such short notice that it wouldn't be appropriate to exclude that from the application. So, having taken on board that feedback, Chair, I would recommend that the committee ask officers to remove the reference to excluding core costs from the application form when considering the recommendation, Chair. I think that's appropriate, Craig.
Yes, absolutely. So what I would suggest is when we get to that recommendation, members, I'll give you some advice then on the way in which you can take that forward as part of that process.
Thank you for that, Hugh, and thank you for clarifying, Craig. I have indication we have the chair of the said Scrutiny Committee. What I'll do, Simon, I'll bring in the questions. You can, unless you want to respond now first before I bring in the chair of the relative Scrutiny Committee.
Can I just add to what Hugh has said?
Yes, certainly.
That's okay. Yeah, just to add, I think it's appropriate that we listen to what Scrutiny said. Scrutiny came up with those suggestions at the time. This application is 25 to 26, which is the third year of the fund after allocating funds to our strategic partners, which was done prior to 23-24. This allocation of funding and application process is for 1 year only that we're looking at. And after discussions, the criteria has been strengthened to ensure that the funding available is used more appropriately in the areas and organisations for them that require it, in order to help deliver Council's priorities. Following this third and final year of the process, a more open, transparent and relevant scoring matrix is to be developed and will apply to all applications. Just in terms of the amount of funding available for this third year, it remains the same as was set out in 24-25. Usually the pot increases in line with our RSG increases, notifications that we have at the time. And this year, because our finance department have been made aware that there is likely to be or when the report was compiled, likely to be a 0% increase in the RSG. That is why the funding has stayed the same as it was last year. That's all I want to say at that point, please, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. And I'll go back now to Councillor Phil Rogers, Chair of the relevant Scrutiny Committee, for his comments, questions and observations. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Good afternoon, all. Thank you. I've got a prepared note, so some of the things might have already been answered. It's about the capping, I think, is the main one. But just what I prepared. Scrutiny Committee considered the third sector grant and commissioning arrangements at last week's meeting. Whilst there were no formal amendments to the recommendations from the Scrutiny Committee, as Chair, I wish to ensure that Cabinet members are aware of the points that were raised during the meeting by Scrutiny members and which officers agreed to verbally update Cabinet. The application process recommends an upper limit of 25,000 being awarded to an organisation, and this would exclude awards to co-funding, which we've already heard from who is now going to be altered. Okay, it is understood that the proposal is to cap at 25,000 to make the pot go further. Further criteria have been tightened up so that projects are considered which support priority areas. However, the committee understand that the grant has been used previously to fund core activities that are unfundable from other areas, and that a number of groups depend on co-funding. I say we've already covered that. Comments from the Voluntary Sector Liaison Forum meeting stressed the need for ongoing co-support. Further, some groups, I think this is the most important point, currently receive more than £25,000 in funding, and they rely on this funding. Now, I understand that in consultation with Hugh, that this only affects 2 organisations that are currently funded beyond £25,000. And given the fact that we have a review coming up at the end of this year anyway, we're just looking with the Cabinet support the idea that they be funded to the current level. Is that what Simon has agreed to? Or is the 25,000 cap going to be a 25,000 cap for this year?
Phil, have you finished? Or
Yeah, thank you.
all right. Before I go back to Simon for a response, Democrat Tammy, in the chat, both Councillor Tim Bowen and Councillor Jeremy Hurley are having sound problems. It's dropping in and out. I don't know.
Thank you, Leader. We are having colleagues to look into it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, both apologies for that, but we're trying to sort that out for you. So, Councillor Noyle, I'll go back to you for in response to Phil's question.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Rogers, for your comments there. Obviously, some of them have been picked up by Hugh, which you're happy with. I think it's important to realise that the Community Finance and Strategic Leadership Scrutiny Committee, that's the full title for it, the only suggestion that came forward, the only comments that were made in that committee were from Councillor Reynolds, which has been picked up. The issue regarding the £25,000 cap wasn't actually put forward as a recommendation that I believe. I think I might have said that, don't I, Hugh?
I'm not sure whether it's said in the meeting or afterwards, Councillor Noyle, but it's been raised at some point that the 25,000 cap would mean that, as Councillor Rogers said, 2 organisations, if successful in applying again, wouldn't have the same amount of funding. But as I've said before, there's no guarantee that those organisations will be successful under the new strengthened criteria anyway. So, and this fund shouldn't be relied on year on year. Organisations have been told that they shouldn't really be planning to receive the same amount of funding annually.
So just to come back, who stole my thunder a little bit on there, what I was going to say, just in terms of receive, I think in looking at that word. So this is an application process. Money is allocated following relevant criteria and need, and the money is simply not given to organisations. There needs to be a process in place to demonstrate the need and benefit, which must be demonstrated throughout that process. Guarantee, no organisation is guaranteed to receive anything through this. It's an open and transparent scheme that's been presented here today, and the next 3-year round will provide even more openness, transparency, but perhaps more importantly, aligned to our corporate strategy and what we are trying to do as our council priorities. The £25,000 cap. So what that is in essence trying to do is trying to ensure that the amount in the fund is able to be used more widely and having a greater impact across all of Neath Talbot. If we look at where we were last year, so the report that came out from last year suggested that we had 39 applications for this amount of money. The amount of money was the same. But interestingly, we were oversubscribed by about 67%. So £239,000 was in the pot, and we had applications totaling £734,707. So as you can see, we weren't able to support all of those 39 organisations. We actually agreed to only fund 14 organisations where perhaps the greatest impact was set to be made. So in terms of what we're trying to do this year, with the cost of living crisis still prevalent for us, trying to get more money out to more organisations to make more of an impact in more of the areas across Neath Talbot. So that's ultimately the reason why we're trying to cap it at £25,000 to make more of an impact across the county. And that's for Cabinet to decide then going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Noyle.
Many thanks, Simon and Hugh. Thank you, and thank you for your responses. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Phil. Any further questions from members? Councillor Llewellyn, please.
Yeah, diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. Thanks, Chair. First of all, I'd like to welcome the fact that we have a proposal in front of us today that means that we'll continue to support a range of voluntary organisations across the county borough. I also welcome the adjustment that Hugh, our Director of Finance, is making to the report and the recommendation. about being more flexible on not specifically tying the funding to individual projects. So there's more flexibility there. While at the same time, the overall criteria are being clarified so that the objectives of organisations are aligned with our own objectives for our communities. I do recognise, obviously, there's no guarantee that any individual organisation will be successful. There's a process that every organisation has to follow if they're applying. But I do recognise that for a number of organisations who have previously received more than the £25,000 cap, there could be issues involved in terms of managing that sort of change. And one of the things I'd like to ask Hugh and colleagues is that would we be trying to support any organisations that are affected in that way about identifying other potential sources of funding, not necessarily from the authority, it could be from other sources as well, but to work, these are important organisations in their communities, and I hope that we'll be able to work with them to look at alternatives if they are impacted in the change of rules on the fund. And the second question I'd like to ask is, how will organisations be informed of the application process? Because there's a fairly tight timescale to make the application. So obviously it's important that organisations are aware that they're able to make that application and what the criteria and timescales are. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Councillor Llewellyn. Hugh?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Diolch. Yes, certainly in terms of alternative funding sources, we can provide support and signposting to other potential sources of funding, so that's not a problem at all. In terms of publicity, as you say, it's quite a tight timescale between now, if the report is approved, and the 3-day calling period and the actual closing date. So we'll obviously publicise through all our usual channels, make sure it's on our website, Facebook page, etc., etc. And we'd probably ask all members to share on their own channels as well, Chair, to try and make sure that to get maximum exposure. And I think all organisations who have benefited in the past, many have been in touch already asking where the application process is, so people are aware that this is imminent, Chair. So, diolch, thank you.
Thank you.
That's okay, Councillor. Is that okay, Councillor Llewellyn? Yep.
Yeah, diolch yn fawr.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Hugh, for that information. I think Councillor Rogers, thank you for your questions and the information that came from scrutiny, showing that they did a very good job in scrutiny in this particular item, and Hugh obviously moved because of the reasons, and quite rightly. Can I thank Councillor Noyle and Councillor Llewellyn for, I agree with both of you, we've got to find ways of supporting them, even if it's not through raising a cap. I do agree that the cap is the right way to go. So I'm now, if there's no further questions from members, I can't see any. I now refer members to the recommendations of page 40 and 40. Oh, sorry. Craig, yes. Apologies for that, Craig. Craig is going to now take us through the part that Hugh mentioned. Sorry, Craig.
No problem at all, Leader. Just so we can pick up that additional change then for you. So I suggest we just deal with the proposed amendment first that has been suggested by Hugh and then hopefully endorsed by members. So we need to change the paragraph 1 of recommendation 24. So they will be approve the proposed arrangements for third sector grant funding for the financial year 2025-2026. Removing the exclusion of core costs from the application process. So if members are happy with that, could I have a proposer just to make that amendment, please?
I'm happy to propose that amendment, Craig.
And a seconder?
Happy to second, Craig.
Thank you, Councillor Nye. Members, are you quite comfortable with that approach? Does anyone object or have any concerns or wish to abstain? Okay, so that becomes the substantive recommendation then going forward. So again, then the recommendation is at paragraph 24 as amended. Could you just have a proposer for that recommendation?
I'm happy to propose the new amendment. Thank you.
And a seconder?
Happy to second. Thank you.
Anyone wish to abstain or vote against? There we go. Recommendation is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you for helping us there, Craig. Very much appreciated. Okay, then, if I move on to agenda item 9, which is the calculation of council tax base for 2025 to 2026. This report is on page 71 to 76 and is here for a decision. So I'll hand over to Hugh Jones once more to see if he has anything further to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Diolch. So this report in front of members today is a technical requirement to set the council tax base for the 25-26 financial year. All councils in Wales are required to set the council tax base as at the 31st of October of the preceding year. This report recommends the council tax base is set at 49,073.53 Band D equivalents. So that's all for me. Just to draw members' attention that the report's for immediate decision, subject to the consent of the relevant scrutiny chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that information, Hugh. Can I just check if there's any members have any questions on this agenda item? I don't see any. As I said, as Hugh was alluded to, this item is proposed for immediate implementation and it will not be subject to the call-in process. Can I now please have approval from the scrutiny chair, Phil Rogers, if you could, please?
Thank you, Leader. I'm happy to support the recommendation for immediate implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now refer members to the recommendation on page 74 of your agenda pack. I will propose the agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Simon. Can I ask if there's any abstentions from members? I don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you are in favour of the recommendation.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm that the recommendation's been approved.
Diolch yn fawr, thank you very much. Agenda item 10 is the Capital Budget Monitoring Report 2024-2025 at the end of September 2024. The report is on pages 77 to 96 and is here for a decision. Can I go back to Hugh once more to see if he has anything further to add?
Only 4 more reports from me, Chair, that's all. So this is the Capital Programme Monitoring Report to the end of September. It takes account of activity to that point in time and projects forward for the remainder of the financial year. Members will note from the report the original capital programme approved back in March totaled £81 million for the year. There has been some slippage, inevitably, as there are with terms of capital projects. So the current projection for this financial year is just under £69 million. The report at Appendix 1 contains details of expenditure to date, and Appendix 2 details the changes to the programme since the first quarter was approved previously by Cabinet. So that's all, Chair. Thank you. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Hugh. Members, do you have any questions? Councillor Llewellyn?
Yeah, just to ask some guidance, Chair. One of the schools mentioned in the capital report is a school where I'm on the governors. Do I need to declare an interest?
The report is just for noting, Councillor Llewellyn, so I'm happy in this sense. It doesn't require any decision, so that's fine.
Yeah, there we are. Fine. Thanks very much. I wonder if we could ask one
Sorry, if I could
further
just
question.
interrupt. It is a decision. Sorry, Councillor Llewellyn, I've just been reminded looking at the report that it's an official decision. We'll note it, but your dispensation covers you in that sense, so no issues there.
Okay, Councillor Llewellyn. I'll go to Councillor Noyle next.
Do I need to declare an interest?
There we are. Councillor Harris then first.
Do I need to declare an interest because my grandson goes to YGG Blind Delight?
No, I'm happy for that in that sense,
okay.
because you've got no active decision making there.
Now, Councillor Noyle.
Mine's not a declaration. Do you want to take the question off Councillor Llewellyn first? I think he had another question, didn't he?
Coming back. Councillor Llewellyn.
Yeah, it's just a general question, really, because obviously, a tremendous amount of work is being undertaken on all of these capital projects. We're aware that there have been lots of pressures in terms of increased costs because of the general inflationary situation. We also have to comply with various timescales where the funding is external. So I wonder if it's possible to have a general comment from Hugh if it's felt that we are broadly on track with the capital programme, because these projects are important to all our communities.
Thank you, Councillor Llewellyn. Hugh?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I referenced, Councillor Llewellyn, there has been some slippage in terms of delivery of some of the projects. What I can assure members is that there has been no loss of funding in relation to those slippages, so we've been able to reprofile funding from this year to next year. I think with all the best will in the world, officers are trying hard to make sure we deliver the full programme, but inevitably, as I say, there are delays in terms of capital projects, in terms of planning, groundworks, etc., which mean that things do get delayed. But yes, absolutely, we're on track to deliver as much as we can this year. Thank you. Diolch.
Thank
Diolch
you,
yn fawr.
Hugh. Councillor Llewellyn, okay?
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. Councillor Noel.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to pick up one point. Over the last couple of years, during the scrutiny of these reports from our Chief Finance Officer, we've always been slightly criticised for not providing information as to it relates to when the budget goes up or down in the year. And I think the additional spreadsheet or line items there that have been given to provide evidence to suggest where the item has slipped or fallen or provide further information is appropriate. I don't think anything was picked up at scrutiny relating to this time, but I wanted to make a point that we are trying to provide as much information as we possibly can to members so they can see if there's an impact or movement in any of the items. Thank you.
No, good point, Simon. And it is really important as much information and the data is relevant for members to scrutinise as well as the knowledge of. So thank you for that. Any other member got any questions? I don't see any. Okay, I now refer members to the recommendation on page 79 and 80 of your agenda pack. I'm happy to propose this agenda item. Could I have a seconder, please?
Hapus i eilio, Cadeirydd.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions from members? Don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary and can confirm that the recommendation has been approved.
Thank you very much, Nadine. Agenda item 11 is the Revenue Budget Monitoring Report 2024-2025 as at the end of September 2024. The report is on pages 97 to 120 and is here for monitoring. So again, I'll go back to Hugh to see if there's anything further to add.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. So yes, as per the capital report, this is at the end of September, but projected forward to the position at the end of March 2025. Members will note from the report that at this point in time, we're projecting to overspend as a council overall by 2.68 million, and that's against an overall net budget of 377 million. This is an £800,000 increase in overspend since the last report to Cabinet, and the details are all contained within the report. As a senior leadership team, we've committed to try and instigate measures within our various own service areas to bring expenditure back in line with cash limits. This will look different depending on what services we manage, because obviously the mix of our costs are different, but I'm hoping that this position will improve by the time we get to the next report, Chair. And we've had some positive news this week from the Welsh Government about in-year funding, which will improve this position considerably as well, Chair. So that's all from me. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hugh. Any questions from members? Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Leader. Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, to remind members to take this into consideration when we go in through the next couple of months, weeks in terms of processes for setting next year's revenue budget. The revenue budget clearly is probably more important slightly than the capital budget we just had monitoring on. The revenue, which indicates that we've got a £2.8 million potential overspend this year. I don't think we should lose sight of the fact that there's potentially more funding coming from the Welsh Government, but we should also be careful and consider that there is an potential overspend this year, and we have a large gap that we're looking at in terms of a revenue position for next year's budget. I think it's very important that members understand the detail that's in here, because these are reoccurring pressures that we have every year as well. So it's not just one-off items that we're seeing. We're having budgetary pressures every year, and I just wanted to make that point to members to make sure that they review this and understand it as we go through the process. Thank you very much, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Noel. Any further questions from members? The point you raise is very valid, and the pressures they usually increase. Nothing ever comes down, does it? So, but thank you for that information. I don't see any further questions from members. As you know, this report is actually for monitoring, so we'll make sure the report is monitored. So agenda item 12 is the Treasury Management Monitoring also. So 2024 to 2025, the report's on page 121 to 128. And as I said, it's here for monitoring. So again, I'll go back to Hugh to see if there's anything further to add to this report.
Thank you, Chair. So this report sets out Treasury management activity since the last quarterly report to members. It includes details of any borrowing undertaken and lists investment balances as at the end of September. There is some duplication and crossover between this report and the next one because both are required under our governance arrangements and they both happen to be coming to the same cabinet meeting. So that's all, Chair. Thank you. Diolch.
Thank you, Hugh. Any member have any questions on this report? Councillor Llewellyn, please.
Yeah, diolch Cadeirydd. I mean, it probably relates to this one and the next report then. But, you know, just asking in general terms, Hugh, we know that there have been, you know, quite a few variances during the course of the year in things like interest rates, and you know, the situation isn't particularly stable from month to month. And you know, in general terms, what sort of impact does uncertainty around interest rates and so on have on our investments and our treasury management?
Hugh?
Thank you very much, Councillor Llewellyn. Yes, that's a really good point. So the markets have been fluctuating considerably. You will note from the report we've undertaken a small amount of borrowing where we tried to dip in where rates fell. Obviously, increased rates give us better rates on our investment interest as well. So it's a balance really around, you know, like with your household finances in terms of whether you borrow, whether you invest and things like that. We are expecting potentially there to be some sort of significant economic shock movements when there's a new president in America in the new year. So we'll be monitoring the position closely because we expect that to have implications worldwide. So that's something to keep an eye on. But yes, as you say, you know, my team monitor these rates on a daily basis and take decisions accordingly. So thank you. I hope that helps.
Yeah, diolch.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, as I said, this is a monitoring report as well. So I move on to agenda item 13, which is the Treasury Management Mid-Year Review Report 2024-2025. This report is on page 129 to 146. And as I keep saying, this is the monitoring report also. So back to Hugh once more to see if he has anything further to add on this report.
Thank you very much, Chair. So, yeah, just briefly, under the SIPFA Treasury Management Code of Practice, we are required to bring a mid-year report to Cabinet for monitoring. This report provides information in terms of interest rate projections, updates our prudential indicators. I can report to Cabinet that all our Treasury management activity undertaken in the first 6 months of the year have been in line with the relevant provisions of the Code. So, as I say, there is some crossover, but happy to take any further questions if there are any, Chair. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you once more, Hugh. Are there any questions from members? Don't see any, so we'll note the monitoring report. At this stage now, agenda item 14, we'll ask our Chief Executive to leave the meeting. Okay, then agenda item 14 is the returning officer and acting returning officer indemnity. The report is on pages 147 to 158 and is here for a decision. So I'm going to hand over now to Craig Griffiths to take us through this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. So, as you'll be aware, one of the roles of Chief Executive is also to act as the acting returning officer and the returning officer in respect of elections. But this is actually a personal responsibility of which the Chief Executive is personally liable for in case there were ever any issues that went awry during that process. So the standard protocol has been that because it is a council-based role, albeit there is personal responsibility, the council offers a standard indemnity to the Chief Executive just to cover any financial losses that she may incur as a result of implementing those roles and responsibilities. Form of the indemnity is one we use across the board for all our outside appointments, and just for you to be aware, it doesn't cover any criminal offences which have been undertaken, any actions which stem from fraud or deliberate wrongdoing or recklessness, or issues that relate to alleged defamation of the officer involved. So quite a standard document, very much established in line with legal practice. So hopefully before you state members for approval.
Can I ask before we go to the recommendation if any members have any questions? I don't see any. Okay, I now refer members to the recommendation on page 149 of your agenda pack. I will propose this agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to see you look at it.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions from members? I don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you are in favour of the recommendation.
I see no indication to the contrary and confirm that the recommendation has been approved.
Thank you, Nadine. If you could, Phil, if you can ask the Chief Executive to return. Thank you. Okay, then, if I go on to agenda item 15, which is list of approved contractors, the report is on pages 159 to 172 and is here for a decision. I believe Hassan is on the call, so I'll go to Hassan to see if he has anything further to add on this report.
Sorry, nothing, Leader. There is nothing to add.
Thank you, Hassan. Can I ask members if they have any questions on this agenda item? Don't see any. I now refer members to the recommendations on page 161 of your agenda pack. I'll propose this agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to see how you look at it.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions? Don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary and confirm that the recommendation has been approved.
Thank you, Nadine. Agenda item 16 is a traffic order for Melin Neath. The report is on page 173 to 186 and is here for a decision. Again, Hassan, have you got anything further to add?
No, nothing to add, Leader.
Thank you, Hassan. Members, any questions? Don't see any. I now refer members to the recommendation on page 176 of your agenda pack. I will once more propose this agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to see how you look at it.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions? Don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm that the recommendation has been approved.
Thank you once more. Nadine, agenda item 17 is another traffic order, which is for Elba Crescent. Oh, sorry, Councillor Phillips declared an interest. Before I go to this then. Councillor Phillips has left the room, so I now go back to this agenda item 17. It's a traffic order for Elba Crescent. The report is on pages 187 to 200 and is here for a decision. Again, Hassan, is there anything further you'd like to add?
No, nothing to add, Leader.
Thank you, Hassan. Members, any questions? Don't see any. I now refer members to the recommendations on pages 190 and 191 of your agenda pack. I will propose this agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to see how you look.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions? Don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendation.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm that the recommendation has been approved.
Thanks, Phil. Councillor Phillips has now returned, so I'll go on to agenda item 18, the Strategic Equality Plan Annual Report 23 to 24. The report is on pages 201 to 250 and is here for a decision. Sheena, I see you're on the call. Can I ask if you have anything further to add on this agenda item, please?
Thanks, Leader. Just in brief, so this is the annual report for 2023-2024. It highlights progress made towards achieving the Council's equality objectives, and this is the fourth and final year of the SEP for 2020 to 2024. The report covers a wide range of services across the Council, and it's made possible through the contributions of officers across all directorates who provide the detail that's contained within this report. If it's approved by Cabinet today, it will be published in Welsh and in English. Just for Cabinet to note that the annual report was part of the agenda for the Community Finance and Strategic Leadership Scrutiny Committee on the 28th of November. There were no amendments from that meeting to the report for consideration, so it is as per the agenda pack. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Sheena. Can I ask members if they have any questions? Councillor Noyle, please.
Thank you, Leader. Chair. Yeah, this falls under my portfolio. So It's a look back at 2023-2024, of course, and if you look at progress made, you can see some incredibly tangible and notable achievements that have been presented through the papers. So I just wanted to pick out a couple that members may not have noticed. Primary school attendance rates increased by 1.17% to 90.97%. Secondary school attendance increased by 1.63% to 87.61%. We've seen an increase in the number of employees receiving health and well-being initiatives set up. There's a greater awareness, engagement opportunities have been implemented for people to feel safe, particularly with the VAWDASV communications and engagement groups. The launch of the Meant to Be NPT mentoring scheme developed to support low-paid women with career progression and development. The number of BME applicants has increased year on year, with applicants shortlisted also showing an upward trend from 2021-2022, and the food and fund services has doubled since the summer of 2023. So some really notable improvements there that have been picked up in the report, Chair, and it's just worth noting that for members. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Noyle. Any other member? Councillor Griffiths, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I just, in my role as Armed Forces Champion, just like to congratulate Baglan Primary and Ysgol Bromwell on being awarded the gold and bronze status, respectively, for the Armed Forces Friendly Schools of Cymru. This is a notable scheme, and they go from strength to strength. And I just like to thank them and wish them good luck. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. If I go to Councillor Jenkins online then, please, Nia.
Thank you, Leader. I just like to add my congratulations, same as Councillor Griffith, and it's lovely to see that we're celebrating the achievements that we've achieved within education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nia. Any further questions, Councillor Llewellyn, please?
Yeah, thanks very much. I'd like to, share the congratulations that colleagues have offered to everybody that's involved in the very good work that's reflected in the report. Obviously, the plan itself is very much a working document, and I think, as Sheena said in her introduction, it reflects the commitment of all our departments and hopefully all our members as well to the objectives of the equalities plan. It's not just something to be on the shelf. It's something that has a direct impact in the well-being of all our employees and the services that we offer. Sheena did mention that this report is bringing us to a conclusion of the current period of the plan, and I don't know whether Sheena could just perhaps remind us or give us some guidance as to the process for developing the next version of the plan and how we're going to be involving all our employees and members in that process.
Thank you, Councillor Llewellyn. Sheena, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I'm happy to advise Cabinet that Council have approved the Strategic Equality Plan for the next 4-year period. We developed that through a workshop approach. We brought in Anna Morgan, who I think is familiar to a lot of you. So she's an external facilitator specialist in equalities. We brought together people from across the council to really look at our equality objectives, to make our objectives really smart objectives. So we've done a lot of work on that. And I think in next year's annual report, hopefully you'll see even more tangible outcomes for employees of the council, but also for the citizens of Neath Talbot.
Thank you very much, Sheena. Okay,
yeah, diolch, thank you.
Can I just finally, if there's no further questions, I concur with my own colleagues and the achievements and right across the sector. Take our thanks back and appreciation to the hard-working staff and our partners who continue to improve and deliver on some of the services we see with the results that are mentioned. So thank you all for that. So this item is also proposed for immediate implementation and will not be subject to a call-in process. So can I once more go back to Councillor Phil Rogers to ask for his approval from the scrutiny for this to be immediate implementation, please.
Thanks again, Leader. Yes, I'm happy to support the recommendation for immediate implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. I now refer members to the recommendations on page 204 of your agenda pack. I'll propose the agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please?
Hapus Iailo, Cadeirydd.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions from members? I don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm that the recommendation has been approved.
Thank you again, Nadine. Agenda item 19 are urgent items. I have none this afternoon. Agenda item 20 is access to meetings. And the access to meetings report is on pages 251 to 256 of your report packs. So I now want to resolve to exclude the public for the following items pursuit of regulations 4(3) and 5 of your statutory instrument 2001, number 2290, and the relevant paragraph of part 4 of your schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972. I will propose that we now move into private session. Could I have a seconder, please?
Hapus Iailo, Cadeirydd.
Thank you, Alan. Are there any abstentions from members? I don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of moving into private. And I will ask Nadine now to confirm that the recording has stopped and any member